Hey, this is Chris with Hacking Your Leadership. On today's discussion on employee engagement, we're continuing this conversation that we started about 3 weeks ago on insidious or maybe lesser known causes of a decline in employee engagement. That if you're a leader of people and you're trying to solve on your team, there might be places you can look if the employee experience and the benefits and the time, if those things have all been taken care of, these might be the place where the low employee engagement is lying. On this episode, the fourth item on this list that we're talking about is a shortage of growth opportunities. And this is a really big one because if you look at employee engagement surveys and exit interviews from a lot of organizations, one of the largest causes of low employee engagement and one of the most given reasons for why a person is leaving an organization is that they don't feel like there are opportunities for advancement. And I think in a lot of organizations, kind of handcuff themselves in this because they think, the organization isn't giving me the positions open, or I have a lot of people with a lot of tenure who are in their role for a long time and they're not going away or getting promoted. So how do I move my people up? They kind of pigeonhole themselves into this thing of like, well, if I can't get my person promoted, then I can't give them a growth opportunity. And I think that's where a lot of leadership fails in this and where the employee engagement decline happens, because you can give your employees growth opportunities that don't involve permanently promoting them into the next role. But a lot of leaders, I don't think, take advantage of that or even know how to do it.
I think it's such a true thing. I've been assigning Simon Sinek Infinite Game to a lot of people from a reading standpoint, just because of this exact concept that in this conversation I want to have with them, which is like growth is an ongoing journey forever. And the next job is a mile marker on a journey of the work that you're doing. And I think you have to see things that way if you're going to be serious about growth outside of promotion. But I also will say at the same time to people, but I also understand, like, promotions matter. Like the same conversation I can have with you is like, how do you continue to build wealth or income, putting forth the same amount of time maybe, in a job? Well, you get that by not just getting a couple percentage every year for a small raise. You do that by changing jobs and advancing your career. So both of them matter. You want to look at promotions and you want to look at opportunities as a means of taking on additional responsibility and continuing to level up your professional growth. But the idea of how you're learning and growing has to be a longer term view of what are you getting out of every job that you have? What are you learning? How are you gaining things? Because what ends up happening, if you don't take the time to really consider growth in this way, you move too fast and you find yourself with a whole lot of responsibility that you're not prepared to take on. And that leads us down a really tough path, because then you're struggling to keep up with the job that you have. And that only goes one of two ways typically.
Right.
It either is with you leaving or you stepping back into another role because you simply did not have enough time to get what you need to get out of that role. So anyway, I share all of that because that to me is the foundational conversation when you start to talk about how do you create growth when you don't have the open positions or the progress or the promotions. And then also then as a leader, how do you create those promotions in a positive, good way? How do you make sure that you're conscious of creating space for your people that are growing and developing and have the ability to do more? And how are you making sure that people in roles and in jobs aren't in them for a long time just doing bare minimum of the expectation? Because that just slows down all of the work that you want to do from building a culture of development.
Right, for sure. So there are definitely organizations I've been involved at where there were leaders who were not bad people, right? Like I could see myself, sitting at a bar and having a beer with them and having a great conversation. We had a lot in common, but were they great developers of people? No. And because of that, they probably shouldn't have been in a leadership role. However, because the way that organization scorecards or performance manages or gives annual reviews to those leaders, the things that are on those reviews are not how well do you develop and grow people. They're basically how well did you meet the expectations of the organization of whatever scorecards or metrics or things that we we say are important to us as a whole, they're meeting those things just fine. And they're meeting it not because of them being a good leader. They're meeting it in spite of them not being a good leader, because maybe they have great people on their team, or maybe people are trying hard for them because they like them as a person. But that doesn't mean they belong in a leadership role. And a person who takes that spot for a long period of time because their leader doesn't place a high enough importance on whether or not they are growing and developing people, and they just put the importance on the scorecard piece, or the revenue piece, or whatever it is, that they are creating a disservice to all the people who want to move up. And that leads to a huge opportunity when it comes to solving this issue of a perceived shortage of growth opportunities. Because if people perceive that happening, believe me, if all of their leaders are doing great and they develop and grow their people well, having a person in a role like that for several years isn't going to be looked at as a negative thing. But by definition, if you're in a role like that for several years, you're probably going to start getting promoted here and there. If a person's been in the same role for 10 or 15 years or more without getting promoted, I'm not saying they don't do the rest of their job well, but it's very unlikely that they are growing and developing people well if they've stagnated in their own career. And so I want to go over some of the things that you can do as a leader if you are committed to giving your people more growth opportunities, but maybe you don't have as much of an opportunity to fix the how many open positions are there, how many people can I promote, but I still want to show my commitment to growing and develop my people, what you can do to kind of solve that issue. Let's talk about that, but first let's give it up a word for one of our sponsors. All right, if you're a leader of people and you're trying to give growth and development opportunities to your people in lieu of being able to promote them because the spots just aren't available, you have to keep in mind one really important thing, and that's that employees view whatever their job is, whatever their core responsibilities of their job, as reciprocal to whatever is on their paycheck. So they get money, they do this job. And anything that they do above and beyond that is not considered reciprocal. It's considered something almost out of their own pocket that they're doing, unless they get something in return for it. They don't get something in return out of a growth opportunity if that opportunity is something they cannot take with them elsewhere. So if you are a leader of people and you're trying to stretch somebody or give them an assignment that they can do, if the skill set required to do that assignment is not something they can take with them to other places, or even in the same organization that you're in now, but to a different position or a different role, that's not going to be viewed as a growth opportunity. It's going to be viewed as an opportunity to not do their day job, right? They could do something else for a few minutes, and maybe that's fine every once in a while too. But if it's truly about growth, it needs to be about teaching them a skill set that isn't just about how can I do my own job better. It's how can I get better as a person, as an employee, as a citizen of the workforce, whether it's in this organization or any organization. How can I expose myself to things that I can take with me in those promotions or even to other organizations? And a lot of leaders are hesitant to do that because it's almost like, poking the bear. It's like, if I give you the skills to leave and then you do, now I've lost you. And my response to that is the cliche, well, if you don't give me the skills and I stay, isn't that even worse? Like, what am I doing for you if I'm just sitting here doing nothing? So if you're a leader of people, make sure that you think about that when it comes to giving growth opportunities. What skill set are you actually helping them learn that they can take with them, not just what can you delegate to them to do that you take off your own plate?
Yeah, and I think communicate that skill set and how it ties to the work that they're doing. I talk about it all the time around, like, how are you bettering yourself as a person? What are you building skill in for both personal and professional growth? And then, like, what do you take, to your point, like, what are you taking with you? Like if I can help people understand that what they're learning are skills that are not just like stuck in the space that they're in, but these are skills that can help them be applied to other parts of their life and other parts of their profession. And whether you maintain a career in the same organization, you can use those skills to better yourself here, or you take those skills with you somewhere to be more successful. That's a win for me either way as a leader. And I tell people, like, but I'm selfish. I want all the best talent to stay with me, but also I want you to be successful. And I want, you to take whatever you're gaining here to be able to see that and to then apply that to be at the best of what you want to be, wherever you want to be and wherever that might be. And I think that focus on skill building and then connecting those dots for people to understand, I think is absolutely critical. Yeah, there are some jobs in some industries where like the thing that you're learning how to do is only for that thing. That is a thing. But for most people, in a lot of industries, you're learning skills that have to do with just larger elements of life, whether it's communication or just how to work through conflict, how to problem solve, how to strategize. Like these are all things that are applicable in a lot of places in life, but can be very valuable once you understand what you are learning and the skills that you are getting. And then you have a leader that helps you to connect those dots. Like I said, that's going to be super critical if you're looking to say, hey, there's more to this than just the next job. That the next job is an important thing, and promotions are important, and I understand that. But what are you doing in between that time? And how are you making sure that you're building the skill to make you the most, competitive candidate for when that job does open? Or it's skills that you're continuing to build that you can apply to other things in your life that will also take you down the path that you want to go down.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. I love that you talked about connecting the dots because, we've all seen the Karate Kid and we've all seen the, Mr. Miyagi tells Daniel to paint the fence and wax the car and he ends up, what happens? He gets frustrated, right? He gets frustrated because after weeks of essentially fixing this guy's house and having no idea what he's doing it for, then all of a sudden there's that light bulb moment where it's like, oh, the same motions to do these things are also the blocks for the karate moves. And it's like, yeah, that works great in a movie. It doesn't work great in real life. In real life, you have to connect the dots going forward, not just looking backward. There isn't going to be this aha moment of, oh, all these things that I was telling you to do, now you're seeing what I was doing here. That's ridiculous, and it's not good leadership. Good leadership is to say, this is what I'm going to try to teach you, and this is how we're going to do it. And I want you to be bought into this process because you're going to get better. And if you're not bought in or if you're having issues with it, we can talk about this. We're going to continue talking about it because my goal is to grow and develop you, not to get credit for growing and developing you. And that's a very different mindset going forward with this. Thank you all for joining us in this discussion on employee engagement. We'll see you next Thursday as we continue the conversation on, insidious ways that employee engagement can drop. You have a great day.